Today's topic is
Games Workshop in managed decline?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to Waypan. I'm Cal.
I'm Sunny.
Before we dive in, we need to tackle two things. What is managed decline, and are we out of our minds?
Let's start with the second question. Games Workshop is raking in more cash than ever. Record profits, booming sales, right?
In 2025, they hit £565 million in revenue, up 14% from last year. So are we crazy to suggest that they are declining? No, we're not, and here's why. I have a simple yes or no question for you. Do you think that Games Workshop is acting from a position of strength?
Yes or no? Are they bold and confident, pushing the hobby forward with killer models and fair prices?
Or are they acting petty, controlling, maybe even a bit desperate, squeezing every penny from fans who just want to paint and play?
By the tone of this video, you can probably guess where we stand, but stick with us. We're not saying they're stupid, but are they strong? That is what we're digging into, starting with what managed decline even means.
Managed decline is a term from history, not just politics. Usually we steer clear of that stuff. The United Kingdom once ruled over an empire where the sun never set. After World War II, they were stretched thin, economically, militarily, and so on. Some fought it, some accepted it, and those that did had a strategy: managed decline. It's not a strategic retreat to rebuild and win later.
It's loss mitigation, squeezing what you can before the fall.
So, let's say that you're a company, because corporations are people, apparently, according to the law. I don't make them, they'd be very different.
Now imagine GW with that managed decline mindset. What would they do? They'd figure customers like us,
painters and players,
won't stick around forever, so squeeze every dollar out while they can.
That means wildly varying unit strengths, buffing underperformers to spike sales, then nerfing the winners once everyone's bought in, instead of aiming for the balanced gameplay we see in many video games.
It's a simple yes or no. Have they done this? Not they tried but fell short, or it didn't quite work out. Just a yes or no. And if yes, is that coming from a position of strength?
But let's pause on miniatures, since that's what we do here at Waypan. If you truly believed that your minis were the best in the industry, what would you do? You wouldn't weirdly rearrange sprues to make copying harder or to make assembly trickier.
That's the IKEA effect, the satisfaction from building your own army like assembling IKEA furniture. If you haven't heard of it, look it up for yourself. In short, you attach yourself to things you build regardless of quality.
And you certainly wouldn't hinder kit bashing, one of your core 6 demographics, because that screams fear of competitors, making compatible stuff, or even making better products that fans might mix in. And don't give me that cope about how that's every corporation ever. No, that's every bad corporation ever. The world still has light and joy, as well as darkness and despair. It just depends where you're looking.
All we're asking for is a realistic assessment. So if you were operating from that mindset, what would you do? You'd force stores that carry your products to buy boxes you know wouldn't sell so that they can get the ones that will. You'd limit how many of those profitable boxes they can order so you can make more profit from people buying directly from you. You do it to keep scarcity high and margins higher.
Has Sunny described something that Games Workshop does? Yes or no? Is that a way to build long-term relationships with shops and players? Yes or no?
Because if you were in managed decline, you wouldn't be building relationships, you'd be chasing churn. You'd shorten edition cycles.
You'd release new codexes that make the latest army ridiculously strong, only to cycle it out a month later.
Does that sound like somebody confident in the future or somebody who is afraid? Does that sound like a position of strength?
Does that sound like somebody who is trying to keep customers for the long term, keep them forever, build the next generation?
Has Games Workshop done that? Simple question. Yes or no? And if you can't answer that honestly, maybe you're not being honest with yourself.
Again, a simple yes or no. Does Games Workshop do this? Does it look like strength?
If you're truly scared, you don't just sue for straight copyright theft. You go after the minis that could be used in your games. That's exactly what's hitting Gamek right now. He's being sued by GW not for copyright infringement, I want to stress that, but under unfair competition because his 3D printable models are compatible with Games Workshop's Warhammer. The suit, filed in Italy in January 2025, demands removal of over 1,000 models from his catalog.
Full honesty here, as always on Waypan, I am a member of Grimark's My Mini Factory tribe, but not for any Warhammer stuff. I joined for his Japanese stuff. You can check out our channel. We're building a full Japanese army project right now. We call it the Teikoku Diaries. I actually really like it. Here's us scrolling on my Mini history so you can see where we joined and why we joined.
No GW proxies involved. But here's the question. Does suing over the possibility, not actual copying, sound like a position of strength? GW is even pushing for injunctions on Gamek's future creations that might compete, not just the existing catalog. Gamek offered to tweak up to 30% of his stuff, but GW wants it all gone.
If you're strong, do you sue over ideas that aren't even made yet? If you can't compete with the threat of what somebody might create, does that scream strength? Ladies and gentlemen, please, just tell me yes or no. Come on, be honest. Does that sound like strength?
Now let's talk about copyright.
I'll give credit where credit is due. Copyright is tricky. You have to defend your IP or you risk losing it. But you better be 100% sure it's yours or you weaken yourself.
If GW is acting from strength, they wouldn't target small creators who can't fight back, like Chapter House Studios in 2012. They were sued over resin kits most fans wouldn't have noticed without the legal fuss. That's not strength, it's bullying. Or more accurately, lawfare, where the process is the punishment. A billion-dollar company like GW with £565 million in revenue in 2025 can eat court costs like candy, but small creators, they can't.
Now, if you were coming from a position of strength, you would not need to go after the little guy. You would not need to target anyone who is not blatantly copying your work.
And you certainly wouldn't try to copyright words like Warhammer or Space Marine, generic terms that nobody can truly own. But has Games Workshop tried to do that?
Did they go after the Astartes creator? People making resin kits that no one would have noticed if not for the lawsuit. Did they go after Chapter House Studios? Only to learn the hard way that everything that they built was standing on the shoulders of giants like Michael Moorcock, The Wheel of Time, Lord of the Rings, Dune, Starship Troopers, things that they took from because it was generic, yet when it was the little guy's turn, they had to squash them. That's pulling up the ladder. That's lawfare.
Would you avoid all those potential lawsuits from one of those larger legacy IPs? Maybe even cower from them? Does that sound like a position of strength? Would your guardsmen look like a one-to-one recreation of Starship Troopers soldiers if you truly believed in your originality?
But let's set aside copyright for a moment. Let's look at Games Workshop purely as an IP holder and ask, who did they really go after?
They have gone after YouTubers, people creating free advertising for them. Now, as Cal has said, copyright is strange. Sometimes you do have to defend it, even against people you would rather not, just to keep your rights intact.
So let's give them that. And they even gave a job to the creator of Astartes. But here's the thing. We never saw Astartes 2.
The next round of official animations looked nothing like the original. Whereas Astartes was efficient and brutal, the new ones were flashy and theatrical. They showed the Hollywood version of Space Marines, not the real one. That is my opinion, of course. Do a style analysis for yourself in your own time, but I think you'll agree with me.
But what is not an opinion is this. Parody is protected under the law. More than anything else, parody is what allows us to criticize. If you cannot have criticism, conversation, and creativity, if you take that away, no one can truly challenge anyone. No one can speak freely.
If the Emperor had a text-to-speech device is not parody, nothing is. Even the title spells it out, yet GW's lawyers went after it anyway. Does that sound like a position of strength?
Now we are at the elephant in the room. It's something I have avoided because it makes people lose their minds. Before we dive in, one yes or no question, and I do want you to answer this. Do people lose reason when politics comes up? Don't get defensive, just please answer before we dive in.
So, now we need to talk about Games Workshop and politics, because it is the elephant in the room that cannot be avoided. Choosing a side in politics is a business strategy. It can be successful. I'm not mocking it one way or another.
I want you to understand that, and this term is mocking. I'm coming purely from a logical point of view. There's a term, get woke, go broke. I do not like this term because I think that the next term is closer to the truth.
Go broke, get woke. This is core to the premise of our argument. Obviously, Games Workshop is doing very well right now, but they may see that in the future things could become dire.
Many companies adopt politics not out of alignment, but cynically to capture an audience affiliated with that view. It can work, attracting new demographics and appearing brand safe, but it risks alienating existing audiences. We have seen that in community debates around changes like female custodies or diverse law elements.
For a long time, the so-called woke side was seen as ascendant, so brands aligned for safety. But politics swings back and forth. When you align with a political identity, you must serve that identity. Games Workshop has been changing lore to serve that identity.
My belief is that this is largely cynical. There may be internal advocates, but the execution feels more like calculated business rather than conviction. It is not a good look for your team when the person who celebrated the death of Charlie Kirk gets suspended after significant political pressure. Ask yourself,
is that coming from a position of strength? If you are on the left, you likely think they should have stood by this person. If you are on the right, you likely think they should have fired and condemned them. Suspending them satisfies neither side.
If you suspend someone but keep them employed, you are not truly condemning them. You are managing short-term risk. If you were strong, you would have fired them or supported them. That's what acting from strength looks like.
They could have chosen political neutrality and said nothing. Many fans argued this would avoid the backlash where changes spark debates that divide the community rather than unite it.
And we're not just talking about that incident. They could have chosen not to release Warhammer is for everyone, but not for these people during the George Floyd riots. Context is king. We must see that these moves are seen as appeasement.
Look at the 2024 Female Custodies release. GW added women to the lore, but did not provide new models or upgrade sprues despite a no model, no rules policy. Regardless of your view, you would question the commitment here.
This is not a move from strength. Doing it during an event that is a nod rather than a clear stance. Both read as cynical business moves.
This is not coming from a position of strength, even if you agree with the sentiment. And that is the end of the topic we didn't want to get into.
Neither of us did. But we wouldn't have been covering it honestly if we avoided it. I want to note something before we continue. Not once in this entire video have we been talking about intelligence.
We've been talking about whether Games Workshop is acting from a position of strength or weakness, because smart people can be strong and they can be weak.
Not once have I accused Games Workshop of being stupid.
No, they've been cold, calculated, and cruel, targeting creators far weaker than themselves while avoiding those with serious claims to their IP.
So, if they're making so much money, why do we believe that they're in managed decline?
Empire miners often peaked right before collapse, extracting gold from exploited lands. History shows it. Massive profits can precede a fall.
Have executives left with big stock holdings and then sold them immediately? Does that sound like confidence? An insider that dumps their shares the moment that they're outside? Yes or no? Does that signal belief in Games Workshop?
People have claimed for years that 3D printing would ruin Games Workshop. We've never said that because it's not true.
3D printing is powerful, but let's be honest, can you tell your landlord that you're running a resin printer in your home without worrying? Yes or no?
Other technologies exist, including Cyocast, which other companies are using to boost production. But plastics, however, that's accessible.
Let's talk Trench Crusade, launching their first plastics in November 2025. That is the turning point.
That's why we see managed decline. Rivals like Trench Crusade with captivating IPs were inevitable.
One-page rules dropped plastics in September 2025 too. Forget quality debates. Real competitors exist now. Call one-page rules a Warhammer clone if you like, but Trench Crusade is a true rival, not dependent on an outside IP like Star Wars or Fallout, but from miniature insiders.
They aren't the only front GW is fighting on. It used to be Tamiya Paints and Citadel, and that was all most people could get. Now there's Army Painter, Vallejo, Scale 75, and many others to compete.
And there's the enemy from inside the gates, Duncan Roads, the Too Thin Coach range. Games Workshop keeps making its own competitors through its poor practices.
GW's biggest rivals come from within, former fans who love the IP but left the company due to its practices. Trench Crusade has original fans, but many are disgruntled Warhammer players drawn by its contrast in vision and how they operate.
They encourage kit bashing, conversion, and using any miniatures you like. Trench Crusade is left wing from what I see. I point this out because we are striving for neutrality. We are highlighting their existence not to promote it because they don't need promotion. They are one of the core premises of this argument.
It was never going to be Star Wars or Fallout that dethroned Games Workshop. It was always going to come from the inside, from the miniatures industry.
And look at where these challenges have come from. They're all ex-Games Workshop people, designers, artists, players.
People who once loved the company and left disillusioned.
One-page rules, Trench Crusade, Conquest, Mantic, Infinity. These aren't just somebody's hobby projects. They're viable ecosystems with loyal communities.
Infinity has even expanded into fantasy with Warcrow.
This isn't 20 years ago.
There are real alternatives now, real systems, real models, and most importantly, they're coming out in plastic.
Not resin, not 3D prints, plastic. That's confidence.
A company that believes in its future invests in molds, not lawsuits. So please, just look at the facts.
Is Games Workshop coming from a position of strength? Compare them to Trench Crusade. Make whatever models you want. Our rules are free.
One-page rules basically does the same, and so do many others. Does that sound like weakness, or does it sound like belief?
I think you already know the answer. Now let's talk about what Games Workshop could do if they truly acted from strength in the few times they actually have. We're not actually the people our shorts sometimes make us out to be.
We don't hate Games Workshop.
Those are just some of the videos that happen to perform the best.
But what we really wish is that people would watch the ones where we talk about design language,
Kit bashing,
color theory,
color psychology,
design versus lore,
how to make terrain,
and all the things you love about the hobby because that's what we love.
So, with that in mind, let's talk about what Games Workshop could do if they were acting from a position of strength.
Now for the first example, something they did right, which is contrast paints.
Even though we don't recommend them for beginners.
We recommend learning the basics.
Anyone being honest has to admit they were revolutionary.
Contrast paints didn't just change Warhammer. They changed the entire miniature painting scene.
Army Painter made speed paints, Vallejo made express colors, Scale 75 made instant paint, and many, many more followed.
That's what strength looks like when you lead so hard that everyone else has to copy you.
Then they refined the line with single pigment formulas, forcing competitors to level up too. That's the Games Workshop I want to see, the innovator that drives the market.
But outside of contrast paints, that's not who they are anymore.
Once White Dwarf was the creative heartbeat of the hobby. It wasn't just ads, it was lore, missions, conversions, experiments. Index Astartes
Now practically an ancient tome.
began there before a whole product was created. If you had every White Dwarf from that time like I did, you had almost all of the articles except one.
Warhammer Community, Warcom as some people call it, is a pale imitation of that spirit. And even White Dwarf itself has become mostly marketing. There are still flashes of gold, like the old How to Photograph Miniatures article, but those are rare now.
If you were acting from strength, you'd make White Dwarf the most valuable magazine in tabletop gaming again. You'd highlight Inquisitor 28 creators, terrain builders, and fan sculptors, not drain publicity from them for free.
You'd integrate with your community instead of ignoring it. That's what strength would look like.
Now, for those who don't know, Games Workshop divides its audience into 6 categories. Casual players, competitive players, painters, diorama makers, and kit bashers, that's one category, collectors, and lore fans.
That's actually smart segmentation. But if you were an industry leader, you'd use it to innovate.
You would focus on those demographics. One group that often feels ignored makes up 1/3 of the audience. Players.
For example, Archon Studios' Prismacast technology actually uses pro-painted paint jobs, and they actually print that directly onto models using a durable resin layer printed onto the surface. It's made for play. Right now, it's limited, mostly used on flat terrain, but the feedback has been incredible.
If GW invested in that, imagine it. Perfectly painted ultramarine, straight out of the box. You don't have to do it for every army. Just start with one. Be bold.
And for the supply issues, instead of hundreds marked temporarily unavailable, why not expand production?
Partner with trusted companies like Archon to produce models for the EU markets without import taxes. Build factories in America to avoid tariffs. We know it's not a matter of ethics, as they had factories in China. Or expand beyond your own factories in Nottingham. The Lead Belt is filled with veterans who would jump at the chance to work with Games Workshop.
Bring back those old school sculpts people love, not through artificial FOMO, but through real collaboration.
Yes, don't just have the last chance to buy. Rent out the mold to trusted locals. You get a cut, they get work, fans get access. That's how you build goodwill. That's what strength looks like.
You could even make a Warhammer seal of approval, an official mark for fan creators, animators, and people creating unique stuff on YouTube and elsewhere using your IP.
Not to control them, but to collaborate. Let them post on Warhammer Plus with credit. Let them earn a living. It doesn't hurt you, it helps you.
And finally, be honest. Stop lying to us. We all know when a sculpt is female. We know when a face changes. Just tell the truth.
Yes, say, yes, there's a demand for female Space Marines. We want to give official options so people can express their creativity, but we're not changing the law.
You already let people make custom chapters. Why not let them show their creativity in other ways, even if it's not canon? After all, your custom chapter isn't canon either. That's creativity. That's inclusivity. That's strength.
But instead, you deny. It makes you look afraid. That's not the Games Workshop I grew up with.
They used to take magnificent risks, like Inquisitor, the 54mm game that expanded the universe and inspired a generation. The Inquisitor books expanded the universe in ways we didn't imagine up to that point.
That Games Workshop took chances. They credited artists and they celebrated fans.
Now it all feels sterile, corporate, safe. It doesn't have to be this way.
You could be the pioneer again, the company that everyone copies. Everything falls eventually. But what legacy will Games Workshop leave behind?
Will you be remembered as Master Splinter passing the torch, teaching others how to fight, or will you be torn apart by a zombie horde of smaller companies, bit by bit, People watching indifferently because you caused your own downfall?
Because on your current path, you will fall. You're making too many enemies. Enemies within the industry, enemies among your customers, enemies of the people stocking your products, enemies everywhere.
There is something I want you to remember. Collapses don't happen instantly. They happen little by little, until suddenly, all at once.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your time. And as always, keep those brushes wet. Bye-bye. You know, I think this is the first video where we're not using our presenter voices because we want to give the information as quick as possible. Some people will think that we're super angry, but we did this so that we don't appear
angry. We tried to say it in like a conversation type of manner.
Well, you saw me recording the script. So what I do is I record it on the phone and then like I list it out and then we give roles and
all that, and even took advice from our members, and the members actually thought that the way we presented it in the original recording sounded fine. It was like, just having a conversation, a little bit of like, hey, we're pointing out some facts here.
I think, unfortunately, regardless of how we present it, there's going to be some people who lose their minds, no matter how neutrally we present it.
Or how reasonable you are.
But I think that we were really reasonable. I thought that we showed that we didn't hate Games Workshop, but like, hey, guys, let's take an honest look at how you guys look right now.
Yeah, and tell us in the comments, are we hitting some pretty hard-hitting points right here? And do you agree with us? Because I think GW has taken a turn for the worse.
Yeah, well, I think they've been doing that for a while, but I think, unfortunately, certain things, they all come to a head all at once. Like we said, it happens little by little, and then
all at once.